Hello everyone. Today we'll continue to reading the book written by Robert Spalding, Stealth War, How China Took Over While America's Elite Slept. Robert Spalding, he retired from the U.S. Air Force as a brigadier general after more than 26 years of service. He completed his career as the Senior Director for Strategic Planning to the President at the National Security Council, and was the Chief Architect for the National Security Strategy. He is a former China strategist for the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff and Joint Staff at the Pentagon, as well as a senior defense official and defense attaché to China. He earned his doctorate in economics and mathematics from the University of Missouri and is fluent in Mandarin. Chapter 2: How We Get There. The magnitude and complexity of the stealth war that the Chinese Communist Party initiated against the United States and the rest of the Western world is so great that even a close observer of today's headlines will have difficulty grasping it. China's stealth war reaches back not months or years into the past, but centuries. They've been refining their view of history, strategic culture, and political philosophy for much longer than the United States or even the West, as we know it today, have been around. If we continue to ignore our differences with China that are at the root of the stealth war, we'll continue to lose. In Western democracies, we have rule of law. Leaders are elected by the people to make laws. Government institutions codified, implement, and enforce the laws. The law is the highest power in the land. There are, ideally, checks and balances and oversight to ensure that the laws are followed. In China, there is rule by law. Unlike the United States, where all citizens have due process, which guarantees they have legal rights that must be honored by the state, and where we have carefully defined laws to establish, administer, and change legislation. The CCP makes the laws, and the people of China have no say in the matter. The law rules them. There is no resource. The CCP defines the law, and citizens have no way to challenge the law. Nothing, therefore, is more powerful than the Chinese Communist Party. What drives the CCP? What is the model it relies on to sustain this authoritarian party? And how can a nation even conceive of such a long-term plan and then steer that course? The answer lies in China's history, its strategic culture, and its view of power and competition. China's strategic culture is intertwined with Confucian ideas of hierarchy, harmony, and responsibility, and mixed it with pragmatic views on how power, wealth, and influence can be attained. Time is a living element with ebbs and flows. Outcomes that maximize the benefit for the majority and ignore the wishes of the minority are pursued. Use of military force is viewed not as a means to an end, but as a necessity. Economic relationships, financial competition, and the use of information help create influence, and influence is the next best thing to actual power. China has a 5,000-year history of empire building. Dynasties rose, dynasties fell. Many were complex, far-reaching, all-powerful societies that are among the biggest empires the world has ever seen. In roughly 717 BC, the golden era of China ended, giving way to the years known as the Spring and Autumn period, followed by the Warring States period. Various leaders and armies engaged in complex subterfuge, tenuous alliances, secret missions, and cold-blooded betrayals, all in the name of consolidating power and control, like Game of Thrones, but real. During the Spring and Autumn period, philosopher Confucius had a huge impact on Chinese culture. A teacher, judge, and minister of justice, he believed in the transformative power of education and obligation of teachers and students to improve society. The political events of the Warring States period helped shape what has become China's best-known book in the West, The Art of War, by a military strategist named Sun Tzu. Countless generations of military officers all over the world have studied this book, but so have diplomats, philosophers, and businessmen. This wide appeal is a testament to the genius of Sun Tzu's work. For a book on warfare, it spends a lot of time discussing how to advance national interests, or any interest, really, without actually going to war. Sun Tzu implies that the Chinese society values rigorous, cutthroat competition as a means of advancing goals without creating the risk of actual combat. Given this fundamental texts, is it any surprise that more than 2,000 years after Sun Tzu put his idea to paper, this strategy of war without actual combat to further national goals is in full effect?